The Dolphins lined up against the Jets in Week 4 with something that felt almost experimental, like pulling a new card from a shuffled deck nobody was expecting. For different right guards in 4 games. Does that sound like stability to anyone? Of course not. But that's the reality for Miami right now. And instead of shying away from it, the team leaned right into the chaos. Cole Strange, the former first-rounder from New England who never really fit in there, suddenly walked into the Dolphins' offensive line story and was asked to carry weight that doesn't wait for anyone. How do you trust someone who's barely been in the building 2 weeks? That's the type of question that lingers, gnaws. Makes you wonder if this gamble was confidence or desperation disguised as opportunity. Strange came off Cleveland's practice squad. Practice squad. Think about the leap from being tucked away as an afterthought to being shoved under the bright lights against a division rival. Mike McDaniel didn't hand out reassurances. Didn't say, "This is our guy," in clear terms. No, instead he offered fragments, hints, little sparks of approval. The buy-in, the attention to detail, the attitude. That was it. McDaniel left the rest unsaid. Why? Maybe because nothing about this right guard situation screams permanence. Every week it feels like a revolving door, and every week it raises the same uneasy thought. How long can Tua Tagovailoa stand back there if the middle keeps shifting like sand? When Keon Smith was benched after that brutal Buffalo game, the clock started ticking. Everyone saw it. The 31-21 loss wasn't just about mistakes. It was about trust collapsing. Daniel Brunskill allowing that lightning-fast pressure, the one that turned into a late-game interception. It was more than just a play. It was symbolic. It screamed inconsistency. And with James Daniels already sidelined on IR, that spot on the line became a wound that no quick patch could really cover. So then in walked Strange. Yes, the same Strange who once had first-round shocker stamped next to his name when the Patriots called him way too early in 2022. Everyone remembers it. Analysts nearly laughed on air when the pick came through. He wasn't supposed to be a day one guy, maybe not even a top 40 pick, but he landed in Foxborough, took over at left guard as a rookie, played nearly 1,000 snaps, and looked, well, he looked overwhelmed. 23 pressures, 5 sacks. Those numbers don't hide. And the second year, the struggles doubled down. Fewer snaps, but almost as many pressures. Then came the injury, the torn patellar tendon that stole his 2024 season and left him fighting for a comeback that few were betting on. Now tell me, does that sound like a savior? Or does it sound like a man hanging onto the league by his fingernails, waiting for someone, anyone, to give him one last real chance? The Dolphins saw something. Or maybe they just needed someone. There's a difference, and that difference could matter more than we want to admit. You lose Daniels in Week 1, Austin Jackson too, and suddenly the strong line you thought you had turns brittle. Coaches talk about fit, about making sure the right guys are in the right spots. But how do you find the right fit when you're patching holes every week? When every practice feels like a guessing game? Frank Smith said it himself. All the variables. That's the phrase. Variables. It almost makes it sound like math, but there's nothing precise about what's happening here. Let's pause for a moment. For guards in 4 games. Is that sustainable? Does any team build rhythm that way? Offensive lines thrive on cohesion, the type of unspoken connection where 5 guys move like one. Miami hasn't had that luxury. And yet, there's this strange, stubborn optimism floating around. Why? Maybe because the Dolphins' identity isn't built on safe choices. They've never been the team afraid to throw someone new into the fire. And Strange, for all his flaws, for all his history, came into this game with something raw, nothing left to lose. When McDaniel said Strange had attacked the technique, it wasn't just coach speak. It was an acknowledgement that effort alone had forced him into the conversation. Sometimes the locker room doesn't need a flawless player. It needs someone hungry enough to push everyone else. Is that what Strange brings? Could be. Or maybe it's a mirage, and 2 weeks from now we'll be talking about a 5th right guard starting in 5 games. That's the kind of instability that lingers like a shadow over this offense. The Dolphins aren't just fighting opponents, they're fighting attrition. Daniels on IR, Jackson on IR, both technically eligible to return after Week 5. But who actually believes in perfect timelines anymore? Injuries don't heal, just because the calendar says it's time. The uncertainty grows, and so does the pressure on backups who never imagined themselves as anchors. So what happens if Strange isn't the answer? Do they circle back to Smith? Do they patch with Brunskill again? Or do they dig even deeper, searching for a name no one's spoken yet? And more importantly, how long before this instability cracks the rhythm of the entire offense? Because if you've watched Tua long enough, you know his timing depends on trust. Every millisecond counts. Every push up the middle shaves away confidence. That's not abstract. It's real. It's visible every snap. Think about the Jets game for a second. The storyline wasn't just Miami versus New York. It was Miami versus itself. Miami versus a position group that refuses to settle. Strange stepping in wasn't about brilliance. It was about survival. And survival can be gritty, uncomfortable, even ugly. But sometimes survival is all you need to keep hope alive. The scouting report on Strange doesn't inspire certainty. It's a collection of flaws, numbers that tell you exactly where he failed. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the Dolphins don't need him to be perfect. Maybe they just need him to be better than the chaos around him, better than the turnover, better than the doubt. And that leads to the uncomfortable question nobody wants to say out loud. What if this offensive line carousel keeps spinning deep into the season? What does that do to the Dolphins' chances in the AFC East? Can a team built on speed and timing survive if the foundation never stops shifting? Strange story is one of redemption waiting for a stage. The Dolphins' story is one of ambition colliding with fragility. Together, they create a drama that doesn't have an easy resolution. It's risky, it's unstable, and it's exactly the type of storyline that defines whether a season unravels or transforms into something unforgettable. Because right now, every snap Strange takes isn't just a play, it's a test. A test of whether Miami can keep building momentum with duct tape and determination, or whether the cracks finally give way. And here's the uncomfortable truth nobody really wants to dwell on. This offensive line shuffle doesn't exist in a vacuum. It bleeds into everything. Play calling changes. Confidence shifts. The way defenses line up against Miami changes too. Because if they smell weakness on the right side, they will test it over and over until someone proves they can hold ground. How many times can Tua stand in that pocket, waiting for Tyreek Hill to break free? If the middle collapses half a second too early, that's the ripple effect, and it spreads wider than most people admit. This is where the weight on Strange becomes almost unfair. He isn't stepping into a quiet situation where his mistakes could be hidden, where he could grow in the shadows. No, he's walking straight into a spotlight that burns hotter than anything he's experienced since being drafted. And the thing about spotlights, they don't forgive. Every missed assignment is magnified. Every false step echoes louder. And when the quarterback is Tua, when the offense is designed around rhythm and precision, the margin for error shrinks to nothing.